Well, vaccine passports are coming in Wales after a very close vote in the Welsh Parliament last night. So the people of Wales, the poor people of Wales, are going to be lumbered with the divisive, illiberal vaccine passport system. Show me your health papers. Sorry, you can't prove double jab. You can't come in to this nightclub. You can't come into this football match. You can't come into this rugby match. Divided society, what we all dread. Got through by one vote. Guess what? There's a Tory MP there called Gareth Davis. He was trying to vote via Zoom, but Zoom went wrong. We know about Zoom going wrong here at Talk Radio. All radio stations know Zoom is a fantastic system, but it has its glitches like everything else, and it is wont to fall out. It's wont to crash. As I say, we've experienced it many times here. So Gareth Davis experienced it. He couldn't get his vote in, and the decision was carried by one vote at the Senedd. Now, that cannot be right. Let's talk to the co-founder of Open for All, and he's a Together Declaration signatory, Alan Miller. Good evening, Alan.
Good evening, Kevin.
I mean, what do you make of this? I mean, don't they need another vote? This is wrong, isn't it?
Absolutely. I was actually outside the Senedd yesterday. There were a number of people who are actually protesting peacefully, saying that they really are against having this anywhere. A mixture of people, residents, businesses, ordinary members of the public. And the fact is that this technical glitch where the Senedd allows some people to vote from elsewhere because that's how they run it, and they have some people voting inside, means that had his vote been cast properly, had it not been interrupted by the technical issue, it would have been a tied vote. My understanding also is that ordinarily the leader of the House would have a casting vote, but not if it's going to be new legislation. So it would have been a tied vote, which is what it should be, and then it would need to go back. And they were looking shocked and surprised because, quite frankly, they weren't expecting to win this. And for something that's just so important about the future of Wales and how it's organised and these measures that were imposed, all of these restrictions, is utterly unacceptable. And I would suggest that, viewers as well have their voices heard together, not only sign the Together Declaration.org, but actually let members of the Senedd know their views.
Well, you just said something that quite surprised me. I thought Mark Drakeford, the Labour leader down there, was firmly in control, and he seems to have always got all of his hardline COVID measures through the Senedd, no problem at all. And I was assuming he would have thought that he'd have won this vote quite comfortably, and I was rather hoping that he might have been shocked by how close it was. But are you saying that he wasn't really expecting to win this?
Well, I'm not sure what he was expecting, but an hour or so before, it was all about what Plaid's position was going to be, and they kept very quiet on the situation. And then it was looking like they were going to come out against it. And it, as you say, it's very, very close. I think the important thing to understand is as well that this is just unnecessary. It's wrong. There's no scientific basis for it. If we look back on this and we say, right, what is the argument for having a vaccine passport? If you're vaccinated, you can transmit it. And if you're not vaccinated, you can have immunity. It makes no sense, but it's just one of those egregious impositions that we never agreed to have an exchange for. And the public hasn't had a debate properly. Businesses have rejected it. No one wants to be separated into a two-tier society. When we go out and have a drink with our friends, they want people standing over there or separated or prevented. Businesses don't want it. So it seems like a very few, some MPs want it. And this really is so essential that they need to go back again. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a legal challenge, but just from the point of view of democracy and retaining trust in the process, it's just unacceptable.
And the other thing about it is that now that Wales is going to be lumbered with these vaccine passports. Well, actually, you and I hope that they see sense and have another vote, because I really think they should, because it is a vital issue, this. It will affect every person's life in that country. But if it does get through, and I suppose as things stand, it is through, you're going to have a situation where Wales will be saying, oh, vaccine passports are absolutely essential for the health of the nation and battling COVID. And then you just cross the border, by the Severn Bridge into England, where they're not necessary. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
It's utterly nonsensical, and that's a really important point. The idea that United Kingdom, different citizens are treated in different ways is absolutely unacceptable. The Conservative government, we were actually in Manchester at the Tory party conferences. We did some fringe events. So Graham Brady made the point that the Conservatives are actually backed down because of the level of opposition against them. Now, we know they've got Plan B, and there's a consultation. And on the togetherdeclaration.org, there's actually an opportunity for the public to have their voices heard until the 11th of October. And we should all do that and get that response in, because, as we know, they've said things before and then not done them and changed their tune. But yeah, it's unacceptable. It's crazy, right? The idea that members of the United Kingdom, there are different rules in different places. This should be rejected out of hand. In Scotland, members of the hospitality industry said they're not going to do it. We're going to see a lot of the public not go along with it. We know that over 1,000 hospitality operators, some very small and some big chains, have said they're just not going to do it. The level of regardless of anyone's vaccination status, right? Both vaccinated and unvaccinated, it's got nothing to do with that. People do not expect to have a show me your health papers society. Exactly. It's wrong, it's discriminatory, it shouldn't be there.
And let's just lay out what vaccine passports will mean. I do this every single time I have one of these discussions because I think it's important. What it will create is a two-tier society. If you can produce your health papers, your vaccine passports, proving that you're double jabbed, you can go to the football, you can go to rugby, you can go to the theatre, you can go to nightclubs. If you can't produce that vaccine passport, if for any reason, and you've got every right, by the way, to choose not to have a vaccine if you don't want to, that's your sacred right. But if you cannot produce that vaccine passport, you will not be able to go to the football. You can't go to the rugby. You cannot go to the nightclub. You can't go to the theatre. In other words, you create a two-tier society, first-class citizens and second-class citizens. That is profoundly wrong.
It's profoundly wrong. And we should remind ourselves that 90% of adults have had at least one jab. In the high 80%, people have had their second jab. Actually, immunity in the UK, according to the ONS and PHE, is somewhere between 93 and 96%. The very idea that we now start segregating society around something that's totally unscientific and utterly undemocratic, this is really very concerning. There are a lot of theories, some people like conspiracy theories, things like that. All this begins to look a little bit sinister, and you just think, today, for instance, the Prime Minister made his, tub-thumping speech talking about how great things will be. Well, we'll see, but we also know what's happened in the last 18 months. And there's this disdain for the public, this contempt for the public, as though somehow they can keep making these impositions that are unnecessary, and just because they decide, whether they're to do with nudges and the behavioural psychology unit that says, well, this will be a way to get more people vaccinated. Things that have been devastating to business, tens of thousands of businesses closed, hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. But what kind of country do we want to be? Mm-hmm. The whole idea of our liberties and freedoms and rights that were hard fought for, and we are the custodians of them, right? We are responsible for upholding them. This liberal democracy is an experiment, right? There are many places where you can't have these kind of conversations without having a knock on the door. And we have to be very careful that we don't allow this. That's why we're saying to people to sign the togetherdeclaration.org. Let your MPs know what you think. People in Wales should keep the pressure up on the Senedd and their...
about this particular vote, Alan, because, this is such a profoundly important decision to be carried by one vote. I mean, if this MP had been able to vote and they lost, I'm a believer in democracy. I'm afraid democratic decisions can sometimes be close. But we got a guy here trying to vote against, and he couldn't get his vote through due to a technical glitch. Surely you cannot land the people of Wales with such a profound change to their lives on a vote like that. I very much hope that the Welsh Senedd agree to do this again. If not, I think there'll be trouble. Alan, we must talk about this again soon. It's good to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. Alan Miller there, he's a co-founder of Open for All.